A year or two after their reveal, the vast majority of movie projects go on to hit the big or small screen. But with so many announcements of so many different kinds of movies, it stands to reason that a few of them will ultimately descend into development hell. The law of averages is a cruel mistress after all. In extreme cases, we won't even hear that a project has been officially cancelled by the studio. Sometimes an announced movie will just disappear into the ether, leaving us with no clue about whether or not it's dead and buried, pending, or slowly moving through the early stages of development. With that in mind, I'm Gareth from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 announced movies that mysteriously disappeared. Number 10, The Hunger. A clear attempt to cash in on the rapidly dwindling zombie craze. 2016 saw 20th Century Fox acquire the rights to The Hunger, a book proposal that aimed to put a Walking Dead-style twist on the historical tragedy of the Donner Party. The Donner Party refers to the group of American pioneers who became stranded in the Sierra Nevada mountain range during a particularly harsh winter, with many of them turning to cannibalism in order to survive. Luke Scott, the son of legendary filmmaker Ridley Scott, was set to write and direct, with his father's Scott-free label handling production duties. Despite the novel not even being written at this point, but it was eventually published in 2018, Fox clearly seemed quite confident in the film version. And yet it vanished off the face of the earth shortly after its initial announcement. It's likely that The Hunger was lost in the mix after the 2019 Disney-Fox merger. But with no official word, it's unclear whether it's cancelled or simply on hold. Number 9, Splinter Cell. A movie adaptation of Ubisoft's stealth-orientated Splinter Cell games has been in the works for quite some time. It was first mooted in the mid-2000s, before going dark and then re-emerging in 2012 with Tom Hardy, fresh off the success of Inception, Warrior, and The Dark Knight Rises, attached to play lead character Sam Fisher. From here, though, things got a little messy. Multiple writers took stabs at the script, a proposed 2015 shoot date was missed entirely, and director Doug Liman of The Bourne Identity and Edge of Tomorrow exited the project shortly after joining it. One of the last official updates we received was in January 2017, when we learned that Hardy was in the process of approving the script, and that the movie was aiming for a PG-13 rating. But after that, dead silence. A Splinter Cell anime series was announced in 2020, but we haven't heard anything about the movie adaptation in years. Perhaps the critical commercial failure of 2016's Assassin's Creed flick scared Ubisoft off making this one. And to be honest, you couldn't really blame them, could you? Number 8, Captain Planet. Away from acting, environmental activism is one of Leonardo DiCaprio's biggest passions in life. He established his own organization, the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, dedicated to that cause. He's narrated several nature documentaries, and he even slipped in a climate change call to arms during his Oscar victory speech in 2016. So when it was announced that he was set to produce an adaptation of the Captain Planet cartoon series, centered on a superhero who's dedicated to saving the environment no less, it seemed like a perfect marriage of artist and material. Sadly though, the marriage didn't last long. Even though writer Glenn Powell discussed the script in a 2018 interview, and he called it dark and irreverent, that's the last we heard of the project. Considering DiCaprio's passion for the pro-environment message of this property, as well as the current popularity of superhero movies too, it's strange that the project didn't come together. Captain Planet may be able to put out forest fires, but clearly he cannot escape development hell. Number 7, Webcam 3D. Back when the 3D gimmick was plaguing Hollywood releases, an interesting little horror movie was announced called Webcam, also known as Webcam 3D. How original. Set to revolve around a man who lures a group of high schoolers to a party, broadcasts it on the internet, and then sets up a vote to decide which of his victims will live or die. The movie had a finished script, financial backers, and even a fleshed-out cast, including some surprisingly big names, like Reservoir Dogs star Michael Madsen and Freddy Krueger himself, Robert Englund. In early 2010, a pretty underwhelming teaser trailer hit YouTube, ending with the tag, "Coming soon." Then a few months later, Englund praised the script, while also mentioning that the shoot had moved from Buenos Aires to Barcelona. It sounded like the project was slowly coming together. But after Englund's comments, it vanished into the filmmaking abyss, never to return. Did the movie actually start shooting? If not, why? We haven't heard a peep in over a decade. But considering how generic that trailer looked, that might not be such a bad thing. Number 6, Sly Cooper. As of late, Sony seems to be getting on the right track with its video game to movie adaptations, setting up an in-house division called PlayStation Productions to handle upcoming film projects like Uncharted and Ghost of Tsushima. In the mid-2010s though, the company had a few stumbling stumbles. One of those was the doomed big screen adaptation of Sly Cooper, which was announced in 2014 alongside a slick teaser trailer, only to vanish into development hell. In 2016, director Kevin Munro indicated that the movie hadn't even entered production yet, later revealing that the project had been on standstill for over a year. Animation studio Rainmaker then stated that the poor box office performance of the Ratchet & Clank movie had caused them to reevaluate Sly Cooper, and they ended up leaving the project in 2017. The failure of Ratchet & Clank clearly put Sly Cooper on hold, but technically it's never been officially cancelled. It's speculated that the remnants of the movie were recycled for the Sly Cooper TV series, which, funnily enough, is also in development hell. But it's unclear exactly what happened here, to be honest. Number 5, The Something. Apart from that time he got into a spat with North Korea, Seth Rogen is largely a reliable guy to go into business with. His movies have relatively low budgets and they usually perform well at the box office, something that Universal was pleased to learn when they worked with Rogen on the Bad Neighbors movies. So in 2016, news broke that the actor and the studio were set to reunite for a sci-fi comedy called The Something, in which Rogen, Bill Hader, and Zach Galifianakis would play astronauts who stumble upon a mysterious ship after being stuck in space for 5 long years. The movie was written by 22 Jump Street scribe Rodney Rothman. He was also attached to direct, making for quite an exciting package. After that initial announcement though, The Something hit a few roadblocks. Later in 2016, it was moved off the release schedule, with scheduling conflicts said to be the reason for the delay, and then it just disappeared. Much like creative differences, scheduling conflicts is one of those blanket, nondescript excuses studios like to use when they don't want to divulge the real reason behind a project's demise. As a result, we'll probably never know what actually happened to this promising Rogen comedy. Number 4, Wanted 2. For a time, a sequel to Wanted seemed like a surefire thing. A month after the first film's release, Mark Miller, who wrote the Wanted comic books, stated that he and the producers were hashing out a story. And the very next year, director Timur Bekmambetov said he was gearing up to start pre-production. Clearly, the pieces were falling into place. No surprise considering the first film's crazy return on investment. But for some reason it just didn't come together. For the last 10 years, all we've heard are faint rumblings that the project might happen one day. Star James McAvoy has indicated he's game for a sequel, and even as recently as last year, Bekmambetov has talked about the movie like it's still in the works, mentioning that he's interested in translating it to the screen life genre, which basically means that the entire movie would take place on a computer screen, like Unfriended. Doesn't sound all that appealing considering the first movie is famous for its stylish action sequences. So if Wanted 2 does actually happen, you might want to brace yourself for something a little bit unexpected. Number 3, Inhumans. The MCU and the Inhumans have a bit of a rocky relationship. First announced as a movie during Marvel Studios' Phase 3 event in 2014, the project was delayed multiple times before the Inhuman characters were used in an atrocious 2017 TV show, which was cancelled after just one season on ABC. Crucially though, this TV show was a completely separate entity to the proposed movie, leaving the Inhuman cinematic future looking rather uncertain. All we know is that Marvel Studios stopped talking about the Inhumans movie after the TV show sullied the brand name. But despite everything that's happened, nobody has come out and said the project has outright been cancelled. In fact, the upcoming Miss Marvel Disney Plus series is set to introduce Inhumans to the MCU. Properly this time, which might be a sign that these characters could one day hit the big screen in a reimagined form. Number 2, Battle of Britain. Another unmade Ridley Scott movie, Battle of Britain was first announced in April 2017 and was said to be a passion project for the director. Though Deadline noted that the film was in the very early stages of development, it was also said that Scott was rather keen to get things moving, having wanted to make a Battle of Britain movie for quite some time. A writer was attached, producers were set, and because this was going to be a World War II movie from the director of frickin' Gladiator, the excitement was palpable. But as you've probably guessed by now, the hype amounted to nada. Like the hunger, Battle of Britain vanished off the face of the earth soon after its announcement. Possibly another victim of the Disney-Fox merger. What's particularly strange about this one is that, again, it was said to be Scott's passion project, so you'd think he'd pursue it with all the clout he could muster, which, considering this guy's CV, is a lot. Number 1, My Brother Borat. Borat may have received an official sequel in October 2020, but did you know that an unofficial sequel to the smash hit comedy was in the works over a decade ago? Upset with the way that Kazakh people were portrayed in Sacha Baron Cohen's uproarious satire, filmmaker Erkin Rakashev set out to make a movie that displayed his country in a more positive light. To that end, he came up with My Brother Borat, which would follow an American man who decides to visit Kazakhstan after watching watching the original Borat. Upon arrival, he attempts to seek out Borat's rundown village from the movie, but is surprised when he discovers a modern, well-developed city instead. For obvious reasons, My Brother Borat received a ton of press at the time of its announcement, and we even got a behind-the-scenes look at Rakashev shooting the movie. That would seem to indicate that things were moving along quite nicely, and yet we've heard nary a whisper about the project since 2010. If we were to speculate, it's possible that Rakashev ran into some legal trouble with Fox. That studio distributed Borat in 2006, and would almost certainly be able to cause some problems for an unofficial sequel like this. Whatever the case, My Brother Borat never saw the light of day. Not nice! And that's our list. Know of any other announced movies that mysteriously disappeared? Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below. And do not forget to like, share, and go and click on that subscribe button. Also, be sure to head on over to whatculture.com and find some more incredible articles just like the one this video you are watching is based on. I've been Gareth from whatculture.com. Thank you as always for clicking on this video today, and I hope you have the best day possible. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.